Hello, this is Eliott5891, and we're here to go over the Tic Tac Toe module and keep talking and nobody explodes. So let's go ahead and boot that up. For this module, most of the edge work is important this time, so we'll cover all of it at the beginning, and then we'll talk about the module. For this one, lots of ports. We have no batteries. We have two indicators, unlit car and unlit SND. For ports, we have 3 RCAs, 2 RJs, and 1 DVI. And our serial number is Uniform 94 Zulu Uniform 7. So this is a tic-tac-toe module. Looks like a little partially completed tic-tac-toe game. The idea is that you're going to be putting pieces on the board in order to end the game in a tie, or as close as possible. You never want to actually make a tic-tac-toe. So, the diffuser will need to give to the expert the information on what is displayed on the module itself, which we will copy down here in our notes. So for this one, we're just going to read across the top. We have 540, 3XX, 90X, and up next is an X. I'll get to what that means in a second. So, to start with, we're going to use this set of rules in the manual to determine what row we start on, which will make sense shortly. If the last digit of the serial number is even, it's 3, 4, 5, 6, or I'm sorry, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Otherwise, if it's odd, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That serial number ended in 7, it's odd, so we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. If there is at least one parallel port, use the even values, otherwise use the odd. There is not, so we're going to use the odd value. That leaves us with 1 and 3. If there are more unlit indicators than lit, that is the case, then the starting row is the lowest remaining value. So the 1 and 3, 1 is lowest, that's what we're going to use. If we'd had more lit indicators, we'd use the higher number, and if they were equal, we'd use the average of what's left. But we have more unlit, so we're using the lowest of 1 and 3, which is 1. So our starting row is 1, and I highly suggest you jot that down. So, based on the number of X's and O's currently on the board, we're going to go through the chart on the next page until we find a spot that's not filled. So here's the chart. Notice you've got a separate set of columns for if there's more X's, more O's, or an equal amount on the board. To start with this board, we've got 3 X's and 2 O's, so there's more X's. So we're going to start in this column here, more X's. We are placing an X because an X is next, so we're going to start in this position. And we calculated that our starting row is 1, so we're going to do row 1. And the way this will work is we're going to look at the first number, which is a 9. Is a 9 on the board? Yes. Can we put a 9 on the board without making a tic-tac-toe? Again, the answer is yes, so we're going to do so. So we're going to replace the 9 with an X, and we're going to tell the diffuser, hey, click the 9. So the diffuser, I'm going to switch to him for a second, is going to hit 9. You'll notice the screen goes blank. He no longer sees the numbers, which is why it's important the expert writes them down. And it'll give us another up next. In this case, it's an O. Now we started at row 1. Because we used that item, we're going to drop down to the next row, row 2. And now we're placing an O. 6. Well, we don't have a 6. 8. We don't have an 8. 5. We do have a 5 in the top left, so we tell the diffuser top left. So they come over, they highlight top left, click it, and it's good. They don't see anything besides it clicking, but we placed it. Up next is another O. So we did the 5, so we go to the next row. That's a 4. Okay, now here we have something interesting. We have a 4, but we can't place it because that would make a tic-tac-toe for O here on the top. So that's going to be a pass. When you pass the first time, after after having entered a number successfully or a piece successfully, if you pass the first time, as you'll see here, then it's going to change the up next to the other option, always. So we were on 4. Now we're trying to place an X, and since we didn't actually place the 4, we're going to stay on the same row. So we go 1, 8, 6, 2, 3. We have a 3, but again, we can't place an X there because placing an X there would give us Tic Tac Toe in the middle, so we have to pass again. When you do a double pass, when you pass both X and O, it will actually automatically fill one of the remaining squares with some piece, and it will display this to the diffuser as you see here. It put an X in spot 3 anyway. It's okay if the module gives it a Tic Tac Toe, it's just important that the player does not do so. Up next is an O. We can go through we did not place the 3, so we're technically still here in this row. So we're going to loop. Obviously, we're going to have to stop when we get to 4 because it's the only thing left. 4. Can't place the O, so we're going to pass. We know that that's going to make it ask for an X next, which it did. So we switch over, go till we get a number that's on the board. The only number left is 4. We can place the X in the 4 spot, so we will do so. That module is done. Since we have it, let's continue with this particular bomb. Let's do another one. The starting row is not going to change because that's just based on edge work. That doesn't care about the module itself. So for this one, 050, 420, OX3, placing an O. I'm going to start in row 1. We have more O's this time, 4 of them on the board, and we're placing an O. O goes in 1, we don't have a 1. 2 we have, but that makes Tic Tac Toe diagonally, so we're going to pass on O. That's going to have us look at X's now. Can't place an X in 1. We can place an X in 5, so we're going to pass on the O and then put the X in spot 5. So we pass. We tell the diffuser center top, top center, top middle, however you want to word it. And we'll go ahead and mark this on our board as an X now. Up next is another X. We still have more O's. We did the 5s, we go to the next row. 9, 7, 4 is on the board. And an X can go there, so we're going to put one there. X in the center left. That was the 4. Up next is an X again. Next up's a 3. We can put an X there, so we're going to put an X bottom right. Up next is an X, and since there's only one left, you can kind of just be like, okay, well, it has to go in the 2 spot. We don't have to use the chart. X in the 2 gives us a Tic Tac Toe that way, so that's a pass. Then it'll ask for the O, but that gives us a Tic Tac Toe diagonally, so that's a pass. So this is a double pass. Okay, one more time. This one here in the bottom left. Let's make sure I'll have you all watch along with this one. X47, XOX, 630. Up next is an O, starting in row 1. More X's, starting with an O. 3, that's a valid position. So center bottom, or I would strongly suggest against using the number because some people may try to do it like a keypad. Bottom center, O. We place it. Up next is an O. Now we place the O, so we're going to jump down to the next row, and now we have an equal number of X's and O's, so we have to switch over to this column. X's equal O's, we're on row 2. O in spot 7 is valid, so top right is an O. Up next is an X. Now we have more O's, so we move over here. Placing an X, we go to the next row. 5, 9, 7, 4. We have a 4. We can put an X there. Top center. 6, we can't put an X, we can't put an O. Double pass. Let's do one more, or 2 more. X57, 40X, O, O, 6. Up next, X. So row 1, more O's, placing an X. No 8, no 1. 5 is a valid location, top center. Up next is an O. We have an equal number, so we switch to the X's equals O's. We go down a line because we did place something, and we're placing an O. So 8, nope. 6. 6 is valid, or 6 is on the board, but it's an invalid position. Makes tic-tac-toe across the bottom, so we're going to pass on that. So we hop over to X. We do not go down a row because we didn't place. 1, 5, 8, 9, 4. 4 is a valid position for X. Center left. Next up is an X. We have more X's now, and we change to the next row, placing an X. 9, 5, 7. Invalid. Tic-tac-toe along the top. Pass. Then we swap over to the O. 8, 5, 4, 7. Invalid location on the diagonal. Pass. And the diffuser will tell us. O in the top right. Placing an X. Only spot left is that 6 there, and we can put an X there, so we'll do so. Bottom right. Let's do this last one. Then we'll look at one more bomb just to go over the starting row bit. 4, 7, O. O, O, 6. 1, X, O. Up next is an O. More O's. Placing an O. Row 1 to start. Position 1 is an invalid, so that's a pass. Swap over to X's. 8, 1 is a valid position for X, so we'll place it bottom left. Up next is an X. Go to the next row. 5, 9, 7. We can put an X there safely. Top center. Up next, X. We place something, so we go down. 4. 4 is valid, so we'll put an X there. Top left. Up next is an X. Only spot left is a 6. That's valid. Center right. So that gets you through tic-tac-toe. Now let's look at one more new bomb, and we will see if we can figure out what starting row to go to. And we'll do 1 on it, and we'll call it learned. So tic-tac-toe will start. Gonna hide my screen, or my notes rather. Alright, edge work for this one. 4 batteries in 3 holders. Oops. 4 batteries and 3 holders. Lit IND. And no ports. Serial number is Mike Hotel 7, India Alpha 7, MH7, IA7. We'll do this particular module, but first let's get our starting row. Is the last digit of the serial numbers even? We use 6 through 9. Otherwise, it's 1 through 4. It's going to be 1 through 4 because, again, we're odd. Is there at least a serial port? Use evens. Otherwise, use odds. No parallel port, so we're using odds. 1 and 3 again. This time, however, we have more lit, so we're going to use the highest value. That would be 3. So we're going to start on row 3. So, looking at row 3, our board is O, 7, X, X, 5, O, 9, X, 6. Up next is an O. We have more X's. We're placing an O. We're starting on row 3. 8, 5. Can we put an O in 5? Yes, we can. Center. Up next is an O. We're going to jump to the next row, and we're going to switch to X's equal O. 6 in the bottom right is not valid, so we're going to pass. Switch over to the X's. 1, 5, 8, 9. We can put a X in spot 9, so bottom left. Up next is an X. Go down to the next row, and we're moving over to more X's because we have more of them now. 3, 9, 5, 7. We can safely put an X there, top center. And then the last thing, X is a pass because we can't put it in the bottom row. O is also a pass because of the diagonal, so double pass. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned about this because we haven't gotten a strike yet is if you start to go through one of the modules, like this one for example, 3. I'm just going to kind of do this without jotting it down. So I'm in row 3, more O's, placing an O, 8, 6, 3, 4. 4. So O goes here. O is next. Let's say we put the O here, which is obviously wrong because I remember there's a space there. Gives you a strike. If you get the strike for the diffuser, it will display everything currently on the board. So now they can read it back to you, OOX, O20, 71X, just in case maybe you miswrote something. Also to note, though, is it resets what row you're on. So now that I've gotten that strike, regardless of where I was on the chart before, I'm now back at my starting row of row 3. So I would go through it from this point, regardless of where I was before. O goes in 7, which is obviously a pass, and so on and so forth. And unlike some modules, you can actually... Didn't mean to hit that so quick. But let's go ahead and finish this. O, placing an X, row 3 because I got a strike, more O's. 7 is an invalid. And then O is going to be invalid. And you'll notice I can actually hit the button before the light comes on to tell me what's next. So if I know it's a double pass, I can just click, click. I don't have to wait for the light to come on. And that's how you do Tic Tac Toe. Be careful, don't do this, because that's not fun for anyone. But that is how you complete the Tic Tac Toe module. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. However, that wraps up this one. Thank you for watching, and until next time, have fun and don't blow up like I just did. Alright, bye.